Contractors Corner. This webinar series features industry experts from Gescan's top-tier manufacturers who will share the latest advancements in technology, product training, and electrical business solutions. My name is Annika on the Gescan team, and I'll be your co-host for today. Joining me from PataBid is CEO Melvin Newman. A few quick housekeeping items before we begin. All attendee microphones and video features have been turned off. On your screen, you should see a control panel with icons for both chat and questions. The chat panel is where you'll see all messages from us. To respond, ask a question, or share a thought, please use the questions feature. Melvin will be going through the actual platform, so feel free to adjust the size on the screen. You can zoom in and out based on your preference. If you're still having issues seeing the screen though, please send me a note in the questions tab and we can make the necessary adjustments. We have a very exciting session today where one lucky attendee will win a 1-year subscription to the platform for free, so feel free to engage and ask your questions. We appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy day to learn with us. So with that, let's dive into what's new in PataBid's Quantify. I turn it over to you, Melvin.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for hosting today. Always a privilege to share with Gescan and kind of collaborate and what we do here. So, as mentioned, I'm Melvin Newman, CEO of PataBid and founder. Basically, a little bit of history. PataBid was started back in 2017 as kind of a method of commercializing some stuff I was working on at the time, and really ran as a hobby up until around 2022, 2021, 2022. In 2021, it started to become another full-time job, and essentially I had to decide what I wanted to be when I grow up. And so left construction to go full-time at PataBid. We released the initial incarnations of the estimating platform in 2022 and have been going essentially ever since then. And really spooling things up. We really want to focus on making sure that the clients, our construction contractor clients, are highly successful in the industry. And as part of that, we've partnered with Gescan to really put together a comprehensive service at the very front end of your estimating processes. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. Some of you may have already seen our platform before. So we're going to focus on some of the new highlights that have come out in the last year or so, and really dial in new ways to collaborate with Gescan on your pricing and procurement. So first and foremost, for those who haven't seen the platform before, it is cloud native. So there's nothing that you need to install. It all operates through a browser. We recommend Chrome or any of the Chromium-based browsers, Microsoft Edge, etc. And works on Apple, PC, doesn't really matter. You can come to the platform and register. That kicks off a completely free, no credit card 2-week trial that you can basically give a full checkout of the system. I'm going to go ahead and log in, and we start at the estimate management screen. Now in here, just in the bottom left here, for those again who haven't seen this before, we have all of our tutorial videos. Strongly recommend taking a run through those. They are all available on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and search PataBid training, it'll pull up this playlist there for you and give you a in-depth rundown. I like to tell people, like and follow us on YouTube for riveting estimating content. It is actually rather hilarious to me how many people have followed our channel. And how starved for entertainment are people if they're, watching channels on electrical estimating. But it is a lot of fun, and that's where we do put, new feature additions, that sort of thing. The whole platform is multi-user, so we've been extending this capability. The ability to add users in, set permissions on them, all of that sort of thing. So if you're running a multi-division, or you want to have a separation of operations and estimating, You can configure all of that in here. So let's say that you wanted to bring in your project managers to handle change orders, that sort of thing. You can plug that in while still making sure that they can't accidentally go and get into the estimating and all of that side of the platform. In here, you can create your estimates, you can organize them into various different folders. But what we've done here is created in here a series of estimates. These are some of our demo estimates. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one here, and I'm going to call it Demo Gescan. And here we go. I'm going to use my default template to open this up. There are a number of different templates that you can have. When you first register, you'll have the default template and the small house template. Now, this small house template is a new one that was created in the last few months here. It's a bit of a different way of estimating. It comes pre-populated with a whole bill of materials for common residential works. So if you're doing basement renos, all of that sort of thing, and it will pre-populate your Gescan pricing in there so that you have the most up-to-date pricing on all of the commodity items depending on the nature of the work that you're doing. The default template is for larger projects, so commercial, institutional, tenant fit up, unique, not necessarily cookie cutter, we'll say. And so I'm going to go ahead and create this, and it's going to add it into my listing here. And when I click on it, I've got some further details. So this has been one of the, this whole screen has seen a major update in the last week here. So on the estimating side, we can track things like closing dates, site visit dates, all of that kind of information. For the contractor, as you're going through your estimate, we have several labor manuals built in here so that you can calculate out your exact labor installation, all of that sort of thing. The Suderman labor manual is heavily geared towards that commercial, larger residential type of work. And then we also have the NICA manual loaded in here. And then we have an internal Quantify manual that is heavily geared to small residential renovation type of work. And you can adjust and change these manuals on the fly in here as you're going through your estimating. Now, the big ticket item in here is the pricing. So we've got a direct integration with Gescan, and it is at your contractor account level. So you can attach in and get your up to the minute accurate pricing out of Gescan, out of your account with all of your discounts, your volume buying, all of that already wrapped into those units. And this really makes the estimating and procurement side of things trivial. Now, what we're going to get into here, we do have this new procurement button in here, but we do have to get some information into this estimate to unlock this. So what I'm going to do is attach in some documents. And again, this can be anything in PDF. And I'm going to attach in a couple of PDFs here. And they're going to lock into this estimate. They're going to upload into it. So anything that I'm going to base my price on, I'm going to attach in here. If you have a quick bill of materials, so if you're doing a change order, that sort of thing, you do not have to upload any documents. You can create that within the platform. But when you're working on the estimate, we have a philosophy that if it's marked up on the drawing, it's in the bid. And so we really want to tie together those components to ensure accurate, consistent bills of materials that are traceable right back to the source documents. So when you're counting your light fixtures, when you're counting those receptacles, you can actually know for certain where in the estimate those are located. And if something is not marked up on the drawing, you know it's not in there. So when you're going through the reviews, it is very quick and simple to identify those kind of aspects of it. I'm going to click on open here. and this is going to launch us into the bid now. On the left-hand side, I've got those documents that I've attached in. I can expand them out. I can click on any of the pages in here, and it's going to load this up in here as a viewer. So it's very similar if you've used Bluebeam, Adobe, or any of those kind of PDF viewers. You can navigate through the pages very quickly here. It's going to try to pull out all of the page names for me. If it doesn't, it does give me the page numbers, and I can rename that myself. Then we get into kind of the estimate items. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on this aspect here, simply because we go into that in a personalized demo. If you ever want that, you can contact us and we'll do a demo with your company. But to highlight some of the new additions, the big ticket item here is our global items database. And we have been adding a tremendous amount of new items in here, materials, everything that you might need for your takeoffs, for your installations, equipment, right down to very specific materials. So if you want to see what is available from Legrand, Pass, and Seymour, you can simply type that in here and it's going to pull all of those details in for you out of our database. So it's a very large, very searchable database that you can see everything that's in the platform. And this comes tied in with Gescan pricing, tied in with labor units, all of that sort of data that you need to put together a comprehensive estimate. And we are continuously adding to this. So we just recently, for one of our clients, loaded up a whole bunch of new speakers and all that kind of stuff for home automation in here. So again, if there's anything missing in here, we're happy to plug things in for you, and we don't charge our clients for this. You can customize anything yourself in here. Anything that a contractor does in here is locked to them. Nobody else can see it or touch it. If we load something in, it does go to the global database. So this is continuously expanding. EV, solar, all of that is being wrapped into the platform effectively in real time. The same goes for our assemblies. Our assemblies are formula driven. So if you know a little bit of Excel, you can build very powerful assemblies. On the right-hand side here, we've got our quick item pads. These are shortcuts into the items and assemblies databases and are there to speed up your takeoff. And so to get some information in here, I can click on one of these buttons in here if I want to go and count these 15 amp receptacles. And it's going to ask me some questions. What do I want this to be in the platform? I can select the gauges here. I'm going to put a 10-foot whip on this. And then I'm going to highlight this. And I can go and manually count these. If I really hated my life, didn't want to spend any time with my wife and kids, I could spend my whole day counting these widgets. I personally don't find that very fulfilling. In here, we have added in our AI. And we've been working on improving this in a number of different ways here. But I can click on this little yellow icon here, and I can simply go and highlight this receptacle now, hit commit, and that's going to send it off to our servers, and they're going to take over and start doing the counts for me. Excuse me. While that's going on, I can queue up other information here. If I needed to take off these fire alarm strobes here, I can send those in. And it's basically going to just crunch through until one of these is finished, and then I will get a green refresh button here. When I receive that, I can click on that button here, and it's going to reload the drawing and show me everything that it's picked up. It's not 100% perfect, but it's there to speed up the estimator. Anything that is missed in here, I can simply right-click, copy, and paste this in. And so when I paste that in, I'm able to very quickly capture anything else that is needed in that project. And we can see here, that I've got the other fire alarm devices all captured in here. What we have in here to break out your estimates, we have these breakdowns here, and these become very powerful depending on the nature of the estimate that you're doing. Now, this was pre-populated with the default template that I used to open up. And so I've got different systems in here. Now, in my audit trail here, I've taken off some distribution, I've taken off some fire alarm, but I've never really assigned these to any systems. I can go back and I can fix that now. So I can right click and reassign this and put it into my fire alarm system. I can do the same thing for this one here, reassign this and put it into my distribution. Now, usually you would organize this, if you excuse me for 1 second. Ha, a little bit of allergies kicking up there. Usually you would organize this as you're doing your takeoff. And I'm not diving into a ton of detail on this, but what I do want to talk about is those instances when you're bidding and the contractor, the owner, somebody comes back to you with an addenda. Usually it's 24 hours before the job closes, and they say something like they want to see one of these rooms broken out. And so if the owner wanted to see what activity room 4 was worth, we have a new feature here where I can go and add in a location for that. So I'm going to call this activity room 4. Save that. And because we are very focused on the documentation, I can right click on this and I can use our multi-select tool. This is a new tool that we have, and I can highlight everything that's in that room. And then I can right click on this and select reassign. And in this case, I'm going to select my activity room 4 breakdown. And when I do that, the system is going to go through now and it's going to break out all of the associated lines of takeoff so that I now have this new activity room 4 breakdown. And this becomes incredibly powerful again as we're going through these kind of detailed estimates with that ability to react very quickly and see what's in that room, what's associated with just that, as the owners are sending us, those breakouts. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. And when it does, it's very, very painful to try to break that sort of information out. On the drafting side of things, we've been improving the drafting module in the platform. So we have these drafting quick item pads in here. We've significantly expanded the number of quick item pads around that and what you can do with those. But effectively in the drafting, if you're in design build here, you'll receive, a floor plan and basically be told, give me a full electrical price for this. And this can be done, with averages, square footing, that sort of thing. But it's really hard to communicate and minimize risk when you're doing it that way. So what we have in our drafting module is this ability to place the symbols right on the drawing, make allowances for different things in here, click commit, and it's going to put those symbols on the drawing. But it's not just putting symbols on the drawing, it is tying in all of your information, everything that you need, pricing, labor, everything that you need to install what is on that drawing. And it is tied together. So when I click on the row in my audit trail, it's going to highlight everything associated with that. What we've also been adding in here is the ability to put a legend on these drawings. So this is a very new feature from a month or so ago, but in the top right, we have this add a legend to the drawing. And when I click on that, it's going to ask me where I want to put it. I can put it anywhere, and then I can move it. But what this lets me do is place an interactive legend on the drawing. So this is going to update if I bring it down here a little bit closer so that we can see everything kind of all together here. If I'm adding some lighting in here, for example, So let's throw in some, I want to use my drafting one on this. Let's throw in some light fixtures. I'm going to turn on a grid here, and I'm going to throw in some downlights. There'll be 4-inch downlights, and then I want to call these type A's, or I can even say, bonus room, that sort of thing, something to identify these. And then when I bring this over, I can place these lined up to the grid into my drawing here. And then when I hit commit, it's going to automatically add them into that legend up at the top, along with their quantities. So when I go and share this with the client, whether I'm doing a large design build or something smaller, residential, I can very clearly communicate the information that I need for those clients. We are also putting in markups, red lines, all of those sort of things in here. So if I come in and take a look at our new red lines markup capability here, I can add in arrows and point those to wherever I need to, add in annotations in here, 2 feet above the floor if I need to tell them that for that receptacle. And we're working on actively making this a lot more interactive for communicating the information that was in the basis of the estimate. And so that's on the drafting side. Going back to things like lighting. So if you're on a commercial project or if you're on an industrial project and you get a cable schedule, those sort of pieces, we have a new feature built into the AI here so that we can use that to extract data out of tables in the documentation. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go after these light fixtures, for example. I'm going to hit a new folder in here. I'm going to use my typicals for this, and I'm going to call this my light fixtures. So I have a folder in here. This could be a cable schedule. I could call it my cable schedule. Anything of that sort of nature. And now I can use this button up here to extract a table from a document. This can be drawings, specs, whatever I have in here. And I can simply highlight this table here, tell it that I want to call this a light fixture, and send that off. And that's going to send this table over to our AI, and it's going to start pulling this apart for us. And it's going after the tag list here. So again, this is awesome for light fixtures, equipment, componentry like that, cable schedules, etc. And when I refresh this, it's going to show me everything that it's found. There's a couple in here that it missed. I can add those in myself. But what I have in here now is that preliminary list of tagged items. And I can now go and start to immediately take this off. I can, since I'm doing lighting here, I can dive in here and I'm going to use the AI to count these for me. I'm going to start to send that over and the AI is going to start pulling this apart for me. While that is going on, I can queue these up, but I can now go and take a look at one of these. So this FR1, for example, that we're looking at here, it's a 2x4 light fixture. When I go and right click on this and edit the typical, I have my tag in here. So what we're doing is we're trying to get that tag list out to Gescan as fast as possible so that they can start to get the quote going for that. So that's kind of our A materials quotes that we're going out for with this. And we're trying to speed up that process. But once I've gotten through my counts or at any point while I'm doing this, I can flip over to my lighting assemblies here and I can bring in my 2x4 lighting assembly. I don't need a tag on it because that's already in my typical, and I just need one of these. And when I commit that and save that, what it's going to do is it's going to go through my estimate and update every instance of that FR1 now with that assembly. So now I have, again, all of my commodity materials to wire up that fixture, my labor, everything that I need to install that. So we've done some high level, very rapid fire takeoff to get information into this estimate. Where this becomes incredibly powerful is when I click on summary here. And the system is going to go through now and it's going to show me the entire bill of materials for this project. I've got my labor hours in here, I've got my material pricing in here, and I've got my Gescan pricing coming in. And this is my real-time pricing. I can replace things in here, if there is something that is missing a price, I can go in and I can simply type that in and it's going to highlight that row yellow for me. Because the platform is full multi-user, you can have multiple estimates, multiple estimators working in the estimate at the same time. And so it's going to track what everyone is working on as they're going through. So if somebody were to accidentally override something in here and put some sort of wrong value in there, I can very quickly see that that has been touched, that has been edited. And if I disagree with that, I can simply right click and reset the row. And that's going to put it back to whatever is the default pricing in my database. And we can see in here all the pricing that we've got in. We can now break down this table. So if I right click on this and hit summarize, I can select multiple different things, depending how I want to review this project. If I want to see things by drawing, I can click on summarize and it's going to break my pricing out now so that I can see what the bill of materials is per drawing. I can do nested summaries in here. So I can break down by drawing and phase. And this is going to become very powerful in a moment here when we go and take a look at the procurement side of this. But while I'm doing the estimating, I can come in here and very quickly see what my bill of materials is for each one of these stages of the project. And this can all be exported to Excel, all of that kind of situation. One of the new features that we do have in here that is very powerful if you're doing anything multifamily. I'm going to re-break this down by location. So when I click summarize here, I now have that activity room 4 breakout and then the rest of my project here. When you're doing multifamily, it is very common to end up with a situation where you've got your suite A, your suite Bs, all of those kind of things. You might have 10 of a suite A and 5 of a suite B. Capturing those multipliers can be tricky. So one of the things that we did in here, when you group the summary screen, it unlocks the quantity column here. So what I can do is I can actually type in, if I had 4 activity room 4s in here for whatever reason, I'm going to type 4 in, and it's going to apply that multiplier now to all of the quantities that are associated with that breakdown. If I refresh the summary screen here, you'll see a green little icon effectively beside everything because we had that in activity room 4. But this is saying there is a multiplier applied to that breakout now. If I need to go back to unit pricing in here, I can re-summarize this again on location, hit summarize, go back to 1, and that's going to clear now that multiplier for me. And so these can become an incredibly powerful way of dealing with those multiple suites, multiple family, different types of projects to get them taken off very quickly. There are other ways of taking those off using typicals. You can actually use typicals as mini estimates with all of the breakdown information built into them. So you could have a typical suite A, a typical suite B. There are several different ways of doing that. Other quick things in closing that we've updated, dealing with labor now, you can apply burdens and either by dollar or by percentage in here. You can apply burdens to individual crew members. So if you have different burden levels for apprentices versus, journeymen versus master electricians, that sort of thing, you can very quickly capture that information now within the rates that you can create for those. And then when you put together an overall crew, it's going to generate an average burden for that crew now. And then you can override that if necessary within the actual project here. So if this crew, on here was going to be a 10% burden, that sort of thing, I can put that rate adjustment in very quickly while I'm in the reviews with my managers. So if we're looking at, we have our average burdens that are in there, but this is a remote project and we're going to have to incentivize people to come to this project. I mean, this happens if you're bidding stuff, Yellowknife, Iqaluit, those kind of places. We may increase the burden or we may put just a top up dollar amount in on the rate. This can be captured very, very quickly now in the platform. And then the factors and all of that kind of stuff, we've made that a little bit easier to work with. So if I needed to put 20% more labor into this, I can very quickly apply that factor, and it's going to now generate a more comprehensive understanding of my total labor modeling on this project. Packages are effectively the same as they've been. Same with subcontracts. Equipment, we have this ability in here to assign calculated fields to equipment in here. So if I had to rent this generator for 24 hours, that's fine. But if it's only going to run for a quarter of the time, I can use that information now to calculate out a fuel burn. And with that fuel burn, I now just have to type in my fuel delivery surcharge. And that's going to be captured now within my estimate. So a lot of these tools are moving towards ensuring that nothing is getting missed in the bid. And all of this feeds out into our overall final sale price here. I can throw in, a 20% markup. It's a small project. I can override individual components of this in here as needed. If I wanted to fine tune all of this part of my bid. And then one of the other new features that we've brought in the last few months here is this proposal capability. So this now all feeds into our proposal module. And this has really become a proposal and reporting module. You can upload templates in Word, in Excel, even PowerPoint if you wanted to. And within here, I can call this, say, quote 1, and plug this in. And it's going to open up my template. This is the default one that comes with the platform. Ideally, you would replace it or modify it to be your own company's letterhead, all of that. And I can now start to put together a comprehensive quote. If I'm bidding to multiple GCs, I can bring that in. And let's say that they wanted something different. A different GC had a different scope of work. Well, I can now run these completely independently. Didn't want to erase the whole line there. And, I can make total changes here for different scopes, all of that kind of information in here. And that's going to now allow me to generate numbers, proposals that are locked into this estimate. They're built into it that capture everything that I did for each individual general contractor I was bidding to. And this can then be downloaded as a PDF, as a Word document, whatever I'm working with. If I had a change order that I was working on, I can click on New Proposal here and use my change order template. And we can call this CCN01, bring that in. And when I click on that, it's going to populate it with everything that's in my estimate in a defensible, detailed breakdown that I can hand over to the owner as part of the change order process. You may also want to hand this over as part of your proposal process. And we can see in this one, we're running this in Excel here. So it's a full online office suite that you can use to put all your formulas in, put all of that kind of detail in, review your estimates, report on them, and get all of that detail in and out. Now, once you win the project, so let's say that you've submitted this proposal, a number of weeks later, you hear back, congratulations, you've got it. Well, now you need to move into the procurement aspect of this. And so in procurement here, we have this button now. And this is brand new. We just released it this past weekend. When you click on this, it's going to bring in the bill of materials for that project. So I've got all of my details in here that I need to buy out now. And this can become a whole exercise on its own. But when I hand this over to my project manager, my superintendent, whoever's going to be responsible for actually executing this project, they can come in here now, see what was actually bid. They can apply those breakdowns here. So let's say that I wanted to bulk order all of the rough-in for this project, as quick as possible. I just want it on site. The owner, the GC, has told us, hey, you're getting the contract today, but we need you on site tomorrow to do all of the concrete embedded work because we're pouring the day after. Stuff that never seems to happen in this business. I can select phase here, hit apply, and this is going to break down my bid now and prepare it for procurement. I can expand out my rough-in. So this is all of my rough-in details. And now I can select the Gescan account here, and it's going to go and pull my up to the minute price from Gescan. So this is, if I'm on the phone with them and they need to save a revised price for me or something doesn't work. We did have an incident where a fan box was coming in at $11,000 each. We were able to send that over to them and say this price is most likely wrong, or this thing is made out of gold. And they were able to very, very quickly repair that. And so once you have this, you can select what you want to order, click next here, and this is going to start a actual order process for you. In here, you can put in your PO number. So if this was, PO 1234, whatever it might be, attach in any notes that you might have, ask for Bob on site for delivery, that sort of thing in here. Put in the address that it needs to be delivered to, and then click place order. And and then I've got a wrong value in here. So you can override these values if I needed to say, 1200 in here for that sort of thing, and then click place order. There we go. This is now going to go directly into their system. And when you get that response back, that is now going to be in the Gescan platform as a direct order. And the platform here is going to start to track those values for you. So if I clear this in here and hit apply, I now have a list of everything that I've ordered, what I've carried, what I've ordered, what's been bought out, and what's remaining to buy out. So you can do phased ordering in here for your projects on a as needed, what's needed, when you need it, very, very quickly, directly out of the estimate, while still having total control over how that's going to arrive on your site. Once the order has been placed, any further clarifications, invoicing details, any of that kind of stuff, you can deal directly with Gescan. We're not changing the nature of the relationship you have with Gescan in any way. We're simply automating these component pieces that take a tremendous amount of time to get that information across, dealing with Excel sheets, dealing with emails, all of that sort of thing, trying to get all of the pricing sorted out, trying to buy it out. With this new procurement module directly tied in with Gescan, you're able to very, very quickly order against the BOMs that you've already bid on. And using the various tools in here, you're able to generate extremely accurate bills of materials for those projects right at the estimating stage so that everything speeds up as you're going through. And that, in a nutshell, is the new additions, the core pieces for interacting with Gescan in here. Happy to open up to any sort of Q&A on this. Oh, can't hear you there. Uh,
Oh,
oh, there we
hello?
go. There we
There we
go.
go. Oh my gosh, so sorry for that, everyone. As I was saying, thank you so much, Melvin. That was very insightful and very exciting new updates. We'll give you a little bit to catch your breath, have some water over there. We did have one question so far. To everyone or anyone that has questions right now, feel free to submit them in that questions tab while we have Melvin on the line. So, first question is from Jason. He is asking, where are the current labor rates referenced from? NECA?
Excellent question there, Jason. When you are configuring an estimate here, you can select from a number of different manuals. This particular one that I'm running on is using the Suderman Quantify labor units. And so as a point of reference, if you're familiar with NECA, it's roughly NECA normal minus about 10%, 15%, depending on what you're doing. Um, our clients have been highly successful both bidding and executing with that Suderman manual, so we do recommend that one. Just as a plug for Suderman, they do estimating training for electrical. They're located outside of Calgary here. If you have someone you need to train on that, they are an awesome group to go take a look at. But their labor manual is also very good for those kind of projects. But you can also change it and select on a per project basis what you want to run with.
Awesome. Jason says, thank you. It's a very nice software.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Next question is from Paul. Is there an offline mode coming at any point?
That's an excellent question, Paul. We are looking at some different ways of achieving that. It is unfortunately non-trivial because of the nature of its multi-user. So what happens when you're trying to synchronize, multiple users that have worked in the platform? But we have been doing a lot of research right now, and especially if you're using any of the Chrome-based browsers, there's some fantastic technologies that they've built in there that will allow that kind of not necessarily fully functional, but offline mode. So, like for example, the AI cannot run in if you're disconnected because that requires a tremendous amount of computational power. So it runs in our data center. But for manual takeoff, estimate updates, that sort of thing, it is an ongoing R&D effort to allow that. But I don't have a timeline, unfortunately, for that.
Awesome. And we are heading close to the end of the webinar, but we are getting a bunch of questions. So if you need to drop off, please feel free to. But those who would like to stay and chat with Melvin, you are more than welcome to get those questions coming in. So the next question is from Craig. Can you break out your BOM to send RFQs to different favored vendors?
Yes, so that becomes part of the packages module here. So if I jump into closing here and go into packages, lighting is a common one for this. If I come in here, this list of packages came out of my template. But if I hop in here, this is a quote unquote pre-structured lighting package that I have. And I've got my Gescans, my e-calls, my City Electrics, Rexel, anybody that I might be sending this out to. I can delete people that don't apply, but in here now I can type in tag here and pull out that fixture count that I have. I can assign this into my package here. I can add in several other line items in here. So if I want to make sure that they include delivery, shop drawings, those sort of things in here, I can put all of that in, and then I can click download BOM. And this is going to create for me a Excel spreadsheet that I can email out to my suppliers. And this has everything in there, my project closing dates. And again, this is simply the default template that comes out of the platform. You can tweak this to your company, format it however you want. But it leads to consistent requests for quotes. And so I can send this out to them as my RFQ and then save this. And it's going to sit here read until those quotes start to come in. And that day of closing is always a total gong show. These are rolling in 20 minutes before closing because the distributors, the manufacturers have all sat on this price until the very last second. And they also never break it down. So I'm going to add in a lot price line here. And this whole module was designed to react very quickly to that chaos of the day of closing. And so on the lot price line here, I might start to type in, my various different quotes in here, and whatever I'm getting back from the suppliers. But then this becomes my scope alignment matrix. So in here, looking down the line here, I might look at this price and say, wow, that's a low price, but maybe they didn't include delivery. And I know that delivery is going to be about $1,500. So I can put that in as a quick plug number here. So that when I'm looking at these bottom numbers, I'm comparing apples to apples. And I can then select the one that I want to include in my estimate, save this, and that's where it's going to hit my bid now. But all of the details of this are stored within here, so I can come back very quickly and reference this either post-tender when I'm getting awarded the project, or when I'm, even on the day of closing as things change. I can react extremely quickly. I hope that answers the question there. If there's any more, let me know on that.
Awesome. I think Craig was very happy with your answer. I got a thumbs up and a clapping reaction from him.
Oh,
So
thank you.
hopefully we got that. Next question is from Chris. Great new updates with the PataBid team. With these new releases, are there accompanying release notes anywhere that help us understand where all the changes have been made?
That is I'll be perfectly transparent, a current weakness of ours at a corporate level. We respond, like the vast majority of everything you see in here outside of bug fixes are actually requests from clients. As long as those are not proprietary to the client and go to the global system, we don't charge for that. Unfortunately, as a result, we do track who's asking for what. We let you know, what's in the queue roughly when it's done, when it's deployed, and we do fairly good at, notifying the people who ask for something when it's done. Unfortunately, we are trying to get better at notifying everybody when we do those updates on the new features, because I'm not going to lie to you, I have had those emails from clients like a month after we release some new feature, and the client's like, this is amazing, when did you put this out? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, that's been out for like a month. Especially for some of the more nuanced features. We are looking at improving on that. We do have a quarterly newsletter that we put out, and we try to capture all the major componentry in that quarterly newsletter. But yeah, we are releasing very regular updates for all of these little kind of components, and we're trying to get better at facilitating that.
Yeah, and Chris, if you need to rewatch this webinar, I will be sending a link to everybody that attended and registered later. So you can watch it on your own time if there's something you want to review. Next question is from John. How often do you provide training sessions?
So that's another unique thing to our situation here. We don't do quote unquote classroom training. We do per client training, and it's sold in 4 hour blocks. When you first sign up for the platform, that is an automatic adder on your first license. So it's a $480 adder to your first year license fee. And we want to sit down with your company and do the training with you. What we do typically ask our clients is, send us a small project you've done in the past, and we will send it to us a day or two before, and we will put together the training program around that project because no two contractors ever work even remotely similar. So we want to make sure that the platform is tuned to your workflows when you're done the training. And we typically do the training in 1 hour sessions. So you can buy a block of 4 or 8. Those are the most common blocks that people buy, depending on how comfortable they are with digital estimating. And then we run those in 1 hour increments. A, it fits better in with your schedule. B, you don't end up in information overload. And so that's kind of how we handle the training sessions. We do put on occasional kind of 1 day intensive sessions or multi-day intensive sessions with the local contractor associations. So we do have one coming up in Manitoba. We did one recently with the ECA in Alberta here. And the associations will let you know when those are kicked off, when they're coordinated. And we also publish them to all of our social media channels.
Awesome. John did say perfect and even better when you started talking about the 1 hour session. So that's very great.
It's hard to ask people. I mean, I've been personally through the AccuBid ones, and they were good, but I mean, you're giving up multiple days, and unless you are a large organization with multiple estimators who can backstop that, that's a huge ask.
We do have one question left, and I do see people are dropping off as we did go a little bit over time. So if anybody else has more questions, you are free to submit those in the post-webinar survey later, and we will be sending those over to Melvin. Last question from Craig. Would you recommend Edge or Google Chrome? I know we touched on this a little bit.
I personally recommend Google Chrome. That is the one that we do the most testing against. And a bit of favoritism there from me. Google Chrome or Vivaldi are the two that I use all the time, depending on what I'm doing. But yeah, Google Chrome is probably the most recommended one.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Melvin, and thank you everybody who stayed for the Q&A portion of our session. As I mentioned earlier, I will be sending a copy of the webinar should you want to watch this on your own time, and a post-webinar survey if you have any more additional questions. So we will let you go. Have a great rest of your day, everyone, and thank you so much again for joining us, Melvin.
Thank you so much for hosting. Always a pleasure.
Bye, everyone. Oh, there we go. Thumbs ups.